it would definitely give you the 5 that inspired me to first play the drums. Those are the ones that really got me thinking of drums, got me wanting to play drums, and really studying them when I was younger. And I was probably 12, 13, 14, maybe even 11, where I started really finding my own music as opposed to my parents' music or friends' music. And at that time I was into the alternative scene, of the 90s, the early 90s. That's when we kind of started. So the bands that I was just, wanted to emulate was Primus was one of them, Tim Alexander. And they were doing something completely different, something so unique. And Tim always had, the coolest chops and always had flair and color. So Primus was a big band for me. Stuart Copeland of the Police was always a big one for me, and I was always a fan of theirs even before I started playing drums. And that's more music that I would hear on pop radio or even through my family. And just his flair that he has, he does a lot of hi-hat stuff, and obviously everything I do, you could, there's like a nice linear trail from Stuart Copeland's playing to mine. So he's definitely up there. I really liked Chad Sexton from 311. His music, his band, what they were doing at the time too was just very unique and alternative, and I like the mixture of all the different genres that they did together. It's very much what we do now in a different sound, but same sort of philosophy. So they did a really good job at sort of putting all those different things that they enjoyed together, and also that he came from a marching background too, so he had those really cool chops, and watching him sort of implement his chops into a live setting was really cool, and into a rock band. So 311 was always a big band for me when I was growing up. John Bonham, that was one of the first. Led Zeppelin was probably one of the first records that I actually went to, like the record store. Moby Disc was the record store by my house, and I got a Ramones tape and I got Led Zeppelin. And before I even started playing drums, I was probably like 10 or 11. And during Moby Dick, I would always sit in front of the mirror on a chair and just pretend like I was doing all of his stuff and all the solos, and I never stopped listening. I liked the Meters, Jigaboo Modalest. I think that's how you say it. I remember, I don't even know who I found them because I was younger, and they obviously, they've been around for forever, but what he was doing, that whole New Orleans feel and that like jazzy vibe, and it was a lot of, to me, as I grew up, I listened to a lot of drum and bass stuff, and it always reminded me of sort of the music that they were playing, but on crack, just sped up really fast, So they were always like, just the odd timing and the different placement of the snare was just, it always inspired me. And, obviously I've got dozens and dozens of other inspirations, but those are sort of the ones that sort of started formulating my, what I do in my band, with myself.